Back to that breaking news that's highlighting the stark contrast between how Republicans and Democrats are viewing abortion rights on the legislative level. Senate Minority Leader Mitch McConnell is saying in an interview with USA Today that a national abortion ban would be, quote, possible if Roe v. Wade is overturned. What McConnell is suggesting could impact Americans in every state, and not just the 23 that would immediately institute abortion bans if Roe falls. A national ban would effectively mean that pregnant Americans would have to travel out of the United States to obtain an abortion. It is unclear if such a ban would be seriously considered by Republicans should they win control of Congress. Now, on the flip side, McConnell's comments come as Senate Democrats are renewing efforts to codify abortion rights into federal law. Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer promising to hold a vote this week on the Women's Health Protection Act. It would be a little more than a political message ahead of November's midterms, as the bill appears to lack the 60 votes necessary to advance. Yes, symbolism can be powerful, but this move is prompting concern from Democratic voters about where the real change is. Joining me now for more is North Carolina Congresswoman Deborah Ross, a member of the Pro-Choice Caucus. Congresswoman, thank you for being here this morning. As I mentioned, there is that Senate vote this week on the Women's Health Protection Act to codify abortion rights on a federal level. Listen, it's obvious this is not going to pass. So are voters getting tired of the theater, and what is the realistic plan to fight back?
Well, I'm thrilled to be with you. And by the way, congratulations on the show. Really excited to be one of your early guests. So it's important that the Senate votes because the House passed this putting Roe versus Wade into federal law. We did that months ago. We marched to the Supreme Court after we did it, and we need to know where the Senate stands. We have a 50-50 Senate right now. We know that we even have Democrats that are not in favor of making sure that Roe versus Wade is the law of the land. We have a couple Republicans who are on our side, but we need to know where the Senate stands. We need to know this because this is such an important election year. There are many Senate seats that are open, including in my home state of North Carolina, where we can flip a seat and get a pro-choice Democratic woman to be in the Senate, and that would make so much difference. The other thing that people need to know is right now, the fights are going to be in the state houses across the country. In North Carolina, we have a Republican House and Senate, but we have a Democratic governor who can veto abortion bans. And as long as he's governor and the legislature can sustain his veto, women will have a right to access abortion here in North Carolina.
Congresswoman, you mentioned a couple of seconds ago the fact that there are some Senate Republicans that are clearly pro-choice. You know, those Senate Republicans include Susan Collins and Lisa Murkowski. Why not, as a Democrat, or perhaps why are the Democrats not embracing that much narrower bill that they have proposed as an amendment to the Women's Protection Act that would codify the holdings from Roe v. Wade, thereby keeping the current holdings of the Supreme Court intact for America?
Well, that is a question for the Senate. So if the Senate can get the votes for that and send it back to the House, then we can have a conversation about that. But until then, the House has made it clear. We want Roe in federal law, so every single woman in this country has a right to reproductive freedom and safe, affordable reproductive health care. The House has made a stand. If the Senate sends us something else, which, by the way, they do all the time, then we'll talk about whether we can move that. But if they can't even move the Collins-Murkowski bill, we need to make sure that we're telling the women of the United States that we are on their side.
You know, the progress that Republicans have made was due in large part to their prioritization of appointing anti-abortion judges. In fact, many Republicans voted for Trump on his promise of anti-abortion conservative justices on the highest court of the land. That being said, Supreme Court nominees have been very coy when asked about Roe during their confirmation hearings. Let's take a quick listen.
So a good judge will consider it as precedent of the United States Supreme Court, worthy as treatment of precedent, like any other.
Senator, I said that it's settled as a precedent of the Supreme Court entitled to respect under principles of stare decisis. And one of the important things to keep in mind about Roe v. Wade is that it has been reaffirmed many times over the past 45 years.
As Richard Fallon from Harvard said, Roe is not a super precedent because calls for its overruling have never ceased, but that doesn't mean that Roe should be overruled.
Congresswoman, unfortunately, I only have a minute left, but I want to ask you this question quickly. Are we in dire need of overhauling the judicial nomination and confirmation process in order to get straight, honest answers out of these future justices?
We're in dire need of having people who appear before the Senate be truthful. And both Senators Murkowski and Collins, as you noted, are pro-choice, care about Roe, and felt deceived. And they have been quoted on that. And what we need to do is hold people's feet to the fire when they come and testify. And it is just plain wrong that people who were testifying were not honest. Remember, Ruth Bader Ginsburg was very honest at a different time, at a time when there was not a pro-choice majority necessarily in the Senate. But she felt that it was important to be clear and transparent during her confirmation hearing.
Thank you, Congresswoman Deborah Ross, for your advocacy and for your time this morning. An all-out ban on abortions nationwide isn't the only extreme idea some GOP lawmakers are advancing. Get this, special TV ratings for shows that touch on anything LGBTQ related, apparently so parents can shield their children from such scandal. Are we witnessing a race to the bottom here? I'll have my political panel here, and we're going to get into it.
I don't just play someone brainy on TV. I'm an